This video is sponsored by Squarespace, more on them soon. Hey guys, Ron here, and probably the oldest trend in the Fakemon and even Pokemon community in general is Pokemon fusions. A year ago, I took this to the extreme and fused every single legendary Pokemon that was out at the time to create a combination of every legendary, sub-legendary, and mythical Pokemon. So go check out that underrated video to see how I managed to do that. Today, I've tasked myself with creating 3 more fusions, one for every Grass Starter Final Evolution, Fire Starter Final Evo, and of course, Water Type Starter Final Evolution. If you enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe so I know you want to see more groups of Pokemon combined into one Fakemon. But before beginning, I have to make sure you're aware of some monumental aspects of this video. In the past, whenever someone attempted to fuse 5 or more Pokemon, they would keep the features exactly how they were in the original Pokemon. So they'd take Feraligator's face and Sceptile's arm, perhaps Chestnut's leg and Charizard's wings, and so on until they used up all the starters they could. But they wouldn't combine and recreate individual body parts so that they looked very natural. For example, in my Legendary Pokemon video, I didn't just put Giratina's face on my Mon and move on to the next body part. Instead, I noticed that the gold plating on Giratina's face could be combined with Zacian's crown, Yveltal's horns, Solgaleo Space Dome, and even Calyrex's eyes. I did this all over the body to make it as cohesive as possible, and I will do the same today. I will take a good look at, let's say, every Fire-type starter and analyze the similar traits that I can combine, like how Emboar and Infernape have these golden swirls, which I can place on my fusion's pelvis to make it look like Incineroar's belt. But the number one thing that you will have to understand is that even with all this streamlining, these will look complicated and over-designed. It's part of the territory. If you thought a combination of this many Pokemon wouldn't look over-designed, then that's on you. I'll try my best to streamline these designs, but remember that they won't look like starters. The amount of details that these mons will end up with will make them look more like legendaries, so that's what I'm making. Legendary Pokemon that are a combination of every starter, almost like their ancestor or something. But before we begin, I'm gonna finally make a Fakemon based on today's sponsor, Squarespace. The all-in-one website platform that'll help you build the most ideal website possible, without stressing about all the complicated stuff. Using the tools that Squarespace offers, like its Fluid Engine, you can start designing with their best-in-class website templates, and customize every detail with their easy-to-use drag-and-drop technology. Whether it's to showcase content of yours by hosting all of your videos, to post your entire art portfolio, sell your products or services, display all your social links, schedule social media posts, and way more, you'll find that Squarespace has a tool for pretty much anything you need a website to do. And if you don't know where to start, with Squarespace Blueprint, you can choose from professionally curated layouts and styles so that with a click of a button, you'll already be set up with a professional-looking website along with optimized SEO tools so you show up to more people and grow your website the way you want. To showcase everything that Squarespace does, I created Terrapus, the fragment Pokemon from Terrapin, Terra, and Carapace, a psychic ground-type Pokemon. Terrapus uses telekinesis to shuffle around the earth and tectonic plates, terraforming its environment in the process. Its shell is constantly shifting around to adapt to its surroundings and absorb impacts in battle. It can also launch its shell fragments at its opponent. I basically made a turtle with a square-shaped shell that is fragmented into many different floating segments, like tectonic plates. But it also mimics the individual panels and features that you can drag and drop around your website that you're building with Squarespace. So if you love Terrapus, you'll love Squarespace. So please check out the description and go to squarespace.com/truegreen7 for a free trial and 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain, once you're ready to take your first step into the future and help support this channel. Let's naturally begin with the Grass-type partner Pokemon Final Evolutions. This one is technically the most challenging because every single Grass type contains a completely different kind of plant, and if we're going to try to include representation of the various flowers, bushes, trees, and leaves that these starters have, it will quickly look over-designed. The only advantage that Grass-type starters can give us is that half of them are reptilian, so it's not gonna be tough to decide on the base animal, but that may barely help since I think Grass-type starters are the most diverse in terms of body shape. You have quadrupeds, bipeds, quadrupedal bipeds, and animals without any feet at all. There's masculine beasts, feminine beauties, and androgynous magicians. It's the entire range of body types, but at the end of the day, these are forces of nature. People like to say that grass types are delicate and pretty, but in reality, grass type starters are monsters. They look powerful, and I'm gonna make mine look hulking as well. I'll begin with a reptilian face. It combines every dinosaur-like grass starter and even Decidueye's beak. I noticed that a majority of them also had semicircle eyes and even smug eyes, so this captures their glare. Their head is a mixture of Masquerada's mask, like its eye patterns, with Sceptile's head and Venusaur's ears. I added Rillaboom's tendril hair, and some of Serperior's regal patterns. I'll tone them down later though. I even tried adding Serperior's collar and Decidueye's head feather, but I noticed it was too much once the neck flower was coming in. This flower is basically a combo of Venusaur and Masquerada's flower, but it will slowly incorporate Meganium's too. Added more Decidueye to the face mask before giving it what looks like eyeshadow inspired by Torterra and Sceptile's eye. It has a hunched body as a combo of all the different body types of this group. Shoulder spikes inspired by Chestnut's armor and Torterra's shell spikes. It has Masquerada's leaves on its chest, but I will combine that with the foliage Rillaboom has on its hair and back. I added Masquerada's thigh fur before modeling the leg patterns after Chestnut's. I gave it Rillaboom's wrists, a combo of feet from Chestnut and Torterra and Venusaur, Meganium, and even Sceptile, Chestnut's chin and Rillaboom's arm. I added some Sceptile leaf blades to the Rillaboom leaf wrists, and finally made the back leaves more wild to mimic the leaves on Torterra's tree. I added the Serperior pattern on its rib and gave it a tail inspired by Torterra and Chestnut's. I eventually added Masquerada's leaf cape and combined that with Venusaur's leaves, but that did make the design look more busy and I decided to take that out at the very end. I finally made the beak look more like Decidueye and especially Torterra's and added some Chestnut spikes on the arm. Then some of Serperior's tail leaves. After consolidating proportions, I finally added another tendril on the head so it looks like a combo of Rillaboom's hair and Meganium's stamen antenna. Now it's time to refine everything before adding a neutral green, then a lighter green to mimic the near beige bodies of Chestnut, Decidueye, and Masquerada, and then the most common accent among the group was yellow, white, brown, pink, and a hint of orange. In the final design, I took out some elements like the ears, cape, and jagged mouth so it looks more cohesive. Behold, Herbehemoth, the growing Pokemon, a grass type with the ability Overgrow and the hidden ability Chlorophyll. Herbehemoth's legs are as sturdy as bark. They roam the earth, spreading the seeds of the various plants that grow on their body. Herbehemoth can grow any plant on its back. In ancient times, it was called the Walking Garden. Records show that it once saved an entire civilization by allowing its citizens to plant their crops on its back during a deadly drought. It can withstand harsh temperatures and lethal attacks. In battle, it will summon an entire forest. It is believed that Herbehemoth was the first to use the move Frenzy plant. It is one of the wisest Pokemon and has learned so much from its millennia among humans. Its shiny was a much cooler and warmer tone. I actually prefer it since it looks more cohesive and less complicated, but it is a nod to the many similarly shaded grass-type shinies. This is way more successful than the legendary Pokemon fusions I did, probably because I combined 9 Pokemon instead of 30. It really feels like I'm making a new Fakemon instead of just a fusion. A more realistic and streamlined version of this would totally be one of my favorite starters, although to be fair, that's because some of my absolute favorite Pokemon in existence, like Sceptile, Decidueye, Rillaboom, and Torterra, are inside this design.
Who's that Pokemon? It's Smokehalf.
Next are the Fire-type starters. This one may be the easiest. 8 out of 9 of them stand up, so I know that out of the 3 we're making today, this one will be the most upright. The individual elements are also quite cohesive. Unlike the grass-type starters that have completely different kinds of plants with various textures, most of these Pokemon have literal fire on them. Fire is fire. Yeah, there's a slightly different art style for the flames on these Pokemon, but I can just, combine them into one art style. Not to mention, their color schemes are the most cohesive out of all the starter groups. They'll have red or orange with some white or yellow and a cooler, dark accent like black, blue, purple, or turquoise. Yeah, there are all sorts of different animals here to combine, but a majority of them are furry. Even Blaziken has some furry looking feathers, so a mammal won't be tough to lock in. But I'm noticing a lot more tiny similarities, so let's start cooking so I can show you what I'm seeing. So the face basically has the aura of Typhlosion and Blaziken with their mouth and eyes, but the ears are a combination of Infernape and Scorbunny's, with the tips looking like Charizard's horns. I added some of Skeledirge's jagged lips and rendered out this eyebrow ornament that is a combination of Scorbunny and Embor's eyebrows. Then I added Infernape's ape brow along with Skeledirge's snout pattern. I boldened the lines to enunciate the tufts of fur on the cheek, inspired by a bit of Scorbunny and Incineroar, but mostly Delphox, but I added an extra segment to the eyebrow ornament to mimic Incineroar's forehead lines, refined it before adding Infernape's fire, then making some room and adding a shorter version of Embor's tusks. With this upright body, it's emulating Incineroar and Blaziken, especially with Blaziken-inspired chest, along with Embor-inspired fur tufts. I combined the swirls on Infernape and Embor but put it where, Incineroar's belt would be. Now there's room for Delphox's chest fur. I then moved up to the neck where I combined Emboar and Typhlosion's fire, Blaziken and Charizard's shoulders, and after contemplating this pro-gamer move, I finally gave it Delphox's stick, but instead of her fire, it's Skeledirge's Flame Bird. Then, the arms are a combo of Incineroar and Emboar's forearms, while the hands are basically Charizard's. The patterns look like they may be solely Incineroar stripes, but I am adding Emboar's leg and arm patterns, as well as tightening up the wrists so it looks slightly more like Blaziken's talon arms. While the leg shape and length is pretty much Blaziken, the actual feet are a combo of Emboar, Skeledirge, and Charizard's. I'm finally adding Charizard's tail before refining the line art and adding a combo of Incineroar and Scorbunny's shoulder fur. A neutral red-orange with yellow, beige, black, and white accents. I added a bit of ash gray and made the black a bit more navy so that it doesn't look like the fire starters with black stripes, but also the ones with blue accents like Scorbunny, Infernape, and Typhlosion. That's why in the final design, you'll notice Typhlosion's dark fur on the neck as well. Beware Beastorch, the burning Pokemon, a firefighting type with the ability Blaze and hidden ability Flash Fire. Beastorch's eternal fire has been used to light up entire nations. Festivals held during lit-up nights feature fire dances in honor of Beastorch, who moves around the battlefield with impressive athleticism. It was one of the first Pokemon to be used in organized Pokemon battles. It loves to breakdance around the battlefield, creating rings of fire as it spins. Its ability to control fire is unrivaled. It could even control the trajectory of flames until they have hit its target. Its sentient fire is believed to have the soul and spirit of Beastorch itself. Beastorch can extinguish all of the fire it creates with the swat of its stick. Its magenta shiny emulates the various fire starter shinies that look relatively similar. I love how cohesive these are turning out. Yeah, it's over-designed for a starter, but for a legendary, it's pretty appropriate design. It looks so passionate and fancy. Just from the colors alone, I can tell that this is a fusion of all starter Pokemon. Dude looks like an ancient fire deity. And now it's time for the water starters. They all have protruding elements like spikes and fins, which will be relatively easy to combine. And they're all semi-aquatic animals, so I know mine will end up looking amphibious. Design-wise, I think I can do this, but personality-wise, they all have completely different vibes. Grass starters are pretty chill, fire starters are passionate, but water starters? They can be any personality, really. I guess a go-with-the-flow type Pokemon is the most appropriate, and likewise the design will just be pretty fluid with different physical elements from each Pokemon flowing into each other. I'm taking the beaked water starters and combining them along the brow, where I will mix Quaquaval's eyebrow feathers with Empoleon's trident. I'll combine it with a crest that mixes Feraligatr and Inteleon spikes, and gave it Blastoise's nose below an Inteleon snout line. Then I'm taking the external gills that Swampert has on his cheeks and combining it with Samurot's whisker facial hair. I even added some of Samurot's shell spikes to the eyebrow horn. The eyes are a combo of Feraligatr, Empoleon, and Blastoise's eyes, and then I thought it wouldn't hurt to include Primarina's eyelashes. I'm gonna make it crouch like Greninja and give it a webbed version of Swampert's hands. The frills that Primarina has on his chest then mixes with Quaquaval's shoulder pads, a combo of Greninja's bubbles, and Swampert's orange jet pads. The tail is a cross between Samurott, Primarina, and Swampert's. Some more spikes on the back hunch that mimic Feraligatr's spikes in the shape of Inteleon's crest. Then I added segments to the arms to look like long versions of Blastoise's tube-like arms, along with Feraligatr, Empoleon, and Blastoise's claws. The chest and rib is padded with Blastoise's shell, and I gave it the pattern of Inteleon's belly, but the part on the chest can also mimic Empoleon's fancy patterns. The separated toes are modeled after Quaquaval's, and finally I refined it all before giving it a generic blue. You'll now notice that the snout is far more Blastoise-like. The most common secondary color among the water starters was yellow, beige, or gold, but after that, a darker blue along with a lighter blue, and of course black and white. Check out Entitide, the Wave Pokemon, a water type with the abilities Torrent and Moxie. By now you'll notice that all three of these Fakemon's names are a combo of words for monsters and their respective element. Entitide are regal Pokemon who justly rule the oceans. There is no Pokemon more adept at swimming. They greet every Pokemon as they make their way to shore. It constantly saves humans from drowning, but will summon terrifying waves if its beloved shores become polluted. It can suck the moisture out of its surroundings to attack and dehydrate its opponents. Entitide swiftly doles out justice to those who harm its subjects and realm. I think this perfectly embodies the design and even personalities of all the water-type final evolutions I know. A real manifestation of the ocean, and with such a constrained color palette, it's the least over-designed of the bunch. It's actually cool that they even look good together, like they're an actual trio of starters. I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I did and want to see it become a true series, so please leave a like and subscribe for that to happen. Check out all my other Fakemon videos, as well as the description for all the music I used, my Twitter, and my Patreon, where you can get cool rewards like seeing my videos days early and get discounts on the t-shirts I made for you guys. You can also do that by becoming a member. I'll see you guys very soon. Bye bye.